right, let's talk about Yoko Taro now. I have his wiki up here, and again, I'm going out the Wikipedia. I'm going to let you freestyle some of this because I know you know more about him than I do. I did a
I agree.
little research on him. Very interesting dude. Actually, it'd be nice to like hang out with him. He seems like a pretty cool guy. But I'm just going to throw out some facts, and we can start talking about him. Yoko Taro is a Japanese video game director, and scenario writer. Starting his career at the now defunct game Cavia, his best known work was on the action role playing video game series Drakengard and its spin offs, Nier and Nier Automata. Sorry, I always can't say that word
I
right.
call it automata because I think automata sounds stupid.
Okay, Automata. That's how you call it.
But you can say whatever you want.
Yoko was born in Nagoya, Aichi, and studied at the Kobe Design University in the 1990s.
Kobe.
Kobe. Not going to say any of those jokes. Hey, well, while he did not initially intend to pursue a career in video games, after working at Namco and Sony, he joined Cavia and became the director and scenario writer for the first Drakengard game. He has since worked extensively on every game in the series except for Drakengard 2 and on mobile titles after becoming a freelance after Cavia's absorption into AQ Interactive. Critics have noted Yoko's unconventional game design and writing style. One of the main aspects of his work is exploring the darker aspects of people, such as why they are driven to kill each other, although he typically does not share a common opinion on the story's dark natures. His writing technique, described as backward script writing, involves outlining the ending of the story first and building the narrative backward from that point. Due to his disdain for being photographed, he generally wears a mask when giving interviews or presenting games. And of course, that mask he's wearing is from the game we're talking about, Nier. So clearly, you kind of warmed me up to this guy in the preparation for playing this. What's your history with Yoko Taro, and what's some of your thoughts on him?
Well, Nier was the first Yoko Taro game I ever played. I had no clue what I was getting myself into. It just looked like a fun hack and slashy type game. And after playing through just like the first ending, which is multiple endings, just playing the first ending, I could tell that there was just something different about what I was playing. There was just something like I just hadn't played a game like that. With like that kind of narrative and stuff. And I was like, what the fuck is this? So I would go on to research like what Nier was. I found out that like it's a spinoff of like a whole nother franchise. I was like, what? And then I would just learn more about the guy behind it. Yoko Taro. He's known for he writes really interesting characters. I don't want to spoil too much about the characters in this game, but some of them aren't conventional. And whenever asked about stuff like that, he says that the characters just kind of happen that way. It's not like he makes a point to make the characters inherently different. It's just that's who the characters end up being.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a selling point of the game. There are certain aspects of the characters that are hardly mentioned in game.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I love the fact that he's always focused on like the morality of the characters and stuff. It's really I love that sort of shit. So after playing Nier the first time, Nier became my favorite RPG, and Yoko Taro became one of my favorite directors.
How do you compare and contrast Yoko Taro with the Hideo Kojima? Because both of them are really prolific game direct. Like, there are very few people in gaming where you could be like, this game was directed by this guy and it's a big deal. It's not like Hollywood where it's like all kind of about who you got the director to be and then you spin off that. Gaming is a little different, but there are certain scenarios where that happens, and that would be Kojima, Yoko Taro, I guess Shigeru Miyamoto, although he's kind of in a weird spot now that he's like old. But stuff like that. So what's your opinion on these two different superstar directors?
I don't want to talk about it, but I would even argue like Suda 51 is a big one too. That's like people like whenever he makes a game, it's like it's a Suda game,
Yeah.
Directly comparing Yoko Taro and Kojima, I think they have similarities, but I think Kojima makes more like blockbustery type things. They definitely have themes, but they're also more akin to watching, or playing like a big blockbuster movie. I don't think if Yoko Taro made a movie, I don't think it'd be a blockbuster.
No, no,
Uh,
absolutely not.
it's
But he's. I hesitate to say the word indie because I don't really think he would be like that because he's certainly like really out there and looking at some of the things from Nier, some probably expensive things that need to be
yeah.
in some of these.
I mean, just for like Drakengard being his first big directing role, that game has stuff that like you would not expect. You know, like I don't know how he got away with like some of the stuff in that game. I mean, there's I don't which you're never gonna probably play it because it's rough. There's a character in that game that's a pedophile, and one of the endings has him being swallowed by giant demon babies. Yeah, which is fucked up, kind of amazing. Yeah, so I don't know how like he just went into it knowing what he wanted to make, and I can really respect that. He stick to his guns. He's never really pandered.
Oh, absolutely. That's one thing I was so impressed by in reading about him is that he has this long history of like saying this is how the game's going to be, and they're like, we don't really want that. And he's like, well, I'm not going to make it then. Like that's
Yeah,
like when somebody comes up to you with like $2 million, like make this game, and you're just like, only if you do it this way, and they're like, no, and you say, well, then I'm not doing it. That's some courage. That's some balls that this guy's got.
that's true. I mean, even Nier, they wanted him to take it in certain directions, and he was like, "No, I'm taking it in the complete opposite."
Can you go into that? What you told me about this earlier, and I think I slightly misunderstood, but I mean I got your general message. But what was the expectation going forward for him, and how did he turn it on its head with Nier?
So Drakengard wasn't ever a huge franchise, but it was big enough to to warrant him getting some sort of I don't know I guess respect within Square Enix. So when it came to Nier was marketed as the next big story from Square Enix. Like they wanted it to be like a big deal. Which is while we'll probably talk about some of the changes that was made for our version and how they tried to market it to us. But whenever the game was being developed, Square honestly wanted it to be I guess like more adult Kingdom Hearts. That's the kind of game they wanted. And you know, I guess that makes sense because at the time, 2010, I guess at the time, Kingdom Hearts would have been the most successful thing happening with Square Enix.
Yeah.
Or because like I think Kingdom Hearts 2 was like 2006 or something, and I don't think much was happening between then. Maybe like Final Fantasy 13 or something. I don't know. So I get where they were coming from, but Yoko Taro didn't want to make that kind of story, and he made the inverse of Kingdom Hearts. That's kind of like how I like say that. Yeah, he made like at its core, it and Kingdom Hearts are both action RPGs. That's all. That's all it has in common.
Well, you can kind of see it with like he's like they also have shadow enemies.
Yeah,
but the whole concept of them are, I mean, obviously so like so completely different. It's impressive.
Yeah, and you have two partners that are always with you, and you travel to different places. But other than that, like there's like this is like the polar opposite of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. Well, and I got nervous because I'm not a big Kingdom Hearts fan. In fact, I kind of hate it. But so when you're like, you're supposed to make Kingdom Hearts, so there's little things that are like it, but it's totally the opposite in other ways. I was a little bit nervous because you weren't super clear which parts were similar and which parts were opposite. I was like, if this game plays like Kingdom Hearts, I didn't want
to spoil anything for you.
But I was super thrilled that the combat is nothing like Kingdom Hearts. Like I think it's what Kingdom Hearts should be. What it should strive to be like. Yeah. Because it's so it's very good. The combat is very smooth and everything. We'll get into more of that later, but I was very nervous when you were talking about the connections, and I was thrilled that in all the right ways, it was both similar and different to Kingdom Hearts. That was good. Anything you want to say about Yoko Taro before we move past it? I know that I did a little bit of research on him And yeah, it was just super fascinating to see somebody that was just so different within the gaming convention, because gaming has like a lot of staples that people tend to stick to, especially lately. It's just sequelitis. I mean, if you go to any company, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna make a third this game, or we're gonna make a sequel to this game, and his take on all that just seems so different. So I thought it was really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, and the only actual like direct follow up to any of his games is Drakengard 2, and even that he was not directly involved with. I think he just did like he was like had a producer role on it. But any of the games that he's made, you could just jump into any of them as like a standalone game.
Okay, interesting. So you said that he did, but I read that he did take part in, or was a big part of Drakengard 3. How did that end up coming about, and how was that game received?
Drakengard 3?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the development history of that game. I know the reception was very mixed.
Oh no.
Because it came out after Nier, and it's not as good. I mean, it's a fine game, but it's nowhere near as good as Nier. Nowhere near as good as Nier. So yeah, it had a mix of like a mixed reception. So I also don't know if he'll end up returning to Drakengard, especially after the release of the first Nier, and then especially after Nier Automata being so successful. I don't know if that series will ever be touched again. You know, now they're doing Nier Reincarnation, which is like a mobile RPG thing.
Yeah. You know, I'm not opposed to mobile games. I'm just so used to being burned by them, being like, they kind of grab you and then they're just like, now pay money to stay in. And it's like, but I don't know, like if he's involved with it, it's got to be at least different. I might give it a look. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't play many mobile games either, but fuck it, I'll play that. I'll try it. Yeah.